The doors to the shared quarters slid open with a soft hiss, and Tae-min stepped inside, dragging 3 large cargo containers behind him. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked around the space that would be his home for the next year. The room was bigger than he expected, with 2 sleeping alcoves on opposite sides and a common area in the middle. Large windows showed the stars outside, and he could see the curve of the planet below the station. A figure emerged from one of the alcoves. She was tall and slim, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly under the lights. Her eyes were large and golden, and she had no hair, but delicate ridges that ran across her scalp in elegant patterns. She wore flowing robes that looked comfortable and practical. "Hello," she said in perfect standard. "You must be Tae-min. I am Velinara. Welcome to our quarters." Tae-min smiled and extended his hand for a handshake. Velinara looked at it curiously for a moment before gently placing her hand in his. Her fingers were longer than his, and her skin felt cool and smooth. He shook carefully, remembering the briefing that said Quilnari were more fragile than humans. "Nice to meet you," Tae-min said. "Sorry about all the stuff. I'll try not to take up too much space." Velinara looked at the 3 large containers and tilted her head slightly. "That is quite a lot of belongings. I only brought 1 small case when I moved here. What do humans need so much equipment for?" Tae-min laughed and started pulling the first container into the room. "Oh, just the usual stuff. Clothes, tools, some things to stay healthy, entertainment. The normal things." "Normal," Velinara repeated, watching as he moved the heavy container across the floor. She noticed he was pulling it with one hand while holding his travel bag in the other. The container left slight marks on the floor from its weight. "That container must be very heavy. Should I call for a cargo drone to help you?" "Nah, I got it," Tae-min said cheerfully. "This one's actually the lightest. Just my clothes and personal items." Velinara's golden eyes widened slightly. "The lightest one?" She had seen cargo drones struggle with containers that size. Perhaps human containers were made of lighter materials, as she thought. Tae-min positioned his containers near his alcove and stretched his arms above his head. Several joints popped, and he sighed with satisfaction. "Long day. The shuttle ride up from the surface always makes me stiff." "You are tired from the journey?" Velinara asked. "You should rest. We can unpack tomorrow." "Tired?" "Not really," Tae-min said. "Just a little stiff from sitting still for 6 hours. I might go for a run later to work it out." Velinara found this strange. The shuttle journey was exhausting. She had needed 2 full rest cycles to recover when she first arrived. But humans were new to the galactic community, and perhaps they handled travel differently. "I have prepared some refreshments," Velinara said, gesturing to a small table where several containers sat. "I was not sure what humans eat, so I brought a variety from the station's general supply." Tae-min walked over and examined the containers. There were nutrition wafers, protein gel, vitamin supplements, and something that looked like dried fruit. He smiled politely. "Thank you, that's really kind. One actually brought my own food, though. Humans have kind of specific dietary needs." "Oh?" Velinara moved closer, curious. "Are humans allergic to many things?" "Not allergic exactly," Tae-min said, opening one of his containers. "We just need more variety and larger portions than most species, I guess. Plus, some of the standard stuff doesn't have enough calories for us." He pulled out a large box filled with packaged meals. Fresh fruits sealed in protective wrap, dried meats, nuts, and several bottles of what looked like supplement drinks. Velinara stared at the quantity. It looked like enough food to feed her for a month, maybe longer. "This is for 1 week," Tae-min explained, seeing her expression. "I'll restock at the station market next week." "1 week," Velinara said faintly. I see. Tay Min pulled out more items. A portable cooking unit, eating utensils, plates, and cups. Then came a large water container. Do you mind if I set up my water supply? I need to drink about 3 liters a day, and I like to keep it filtered. 3 liters, Velinara repeated. She drank perhaps half a liter daily. Of course, please make yourself comfortable. As Tay Min unpacked, Velinara watched with growing fascination. Everything he pulled out seemed oversized and excessive. Thick sleeping blankets that looked heavy enough to crush her. Clothing made from tough materials. Boots with deep treads that looked like they were designed for combat or dangerous terrain. What do you do for work on the station? Velinara asked, trying to understand why he had such heavy-duty equipment. I'm a mechanic in the engineering bay, Tay Min said. I fix things, maintain systems, that kind of stuff. Sometimes I have to crawl into tight spaces or work in difficult conditions, so I need good gear. That made some sense to Velinara. Maintenance work was demanding, but still, something felt unusual about the amount and type of equipment he had. Tay-Min opened the second container, and Velinara saw metal objects inside. What are those? She asked. Oh, these? Tay Min pulled out what looked like 2 metal bars connected by a short rod. Exercise equipment. I like to stay in shape. There's also some resistance bands, a pull-up bar, and my running gear in here. You exercise beyond your work duties? Velinara asked, surprised. Is your work not sufficient physical activity? Tay Min laughed. The work is pretty physical, yeah, but I like to do dedicated exercise too. Keeps me healthy and helps me sleep better. I try to work out for about an hour every day. Every day? Velinara felt a flutter of concern. On her world, physical labor was carefully rationed because it exhausted the body quickly. Workers had mandatory rest periods and were monitored for overexertion. The idea of adding more physical stress after a work shift seemed dangerous. Is that safe? She asked carefully. Will you not injure yourself? Tay Min looked confused for a moment, then his expression softened. Oh, right. I forgot that different species have different needs. For humans, regular exercise is actually necessary to stay healthy. If we don't move enough, we get weak and sick. Our bodies kind of expect a lot of physical activity. Fascinating, Velinara said, though she still found it concerning. What is in the third container? Miscellaneous stuff, Tay Min said. Entertainment, hobby materials, first aid kit, survival gear, tools. The random things you accumulate? Survival gear? Velinara asked. Are you planning expeditions to dangerous places? Oh no, Tay Min said with a laugh. It's just standard stuff humans keep around. Emergency rations, medical supplies, basic tools. You never know when you might need them. Velinara thought about her own emergency supplies. A distress beacon and some medication. Tay Min's attitude suggested he expected to personally handle emergencies rather than simply call for help. Well, Tay Min said, looking at the pile of belongings, I should probably organize all this. Would you mind if I take today to set everything up? I promise I'll keep my stuff on my side of the room. Of course, Velinara said. Take your time. I will be working on my research project if you need anything. She retreated to her alcove, but she kept glancing out at Tay Min as he worked. He moved with efficient energy, lifting and arranging things that looked far too heavy for someone his size. He hummed while he worked, occasionally singing bits of songs in a language she didn't recognize. After a few hours, Velinara emerged to find Tay Min installing a metal bar across his alcove entrance. What is that for? She asked. Pull-up bar, he explained. I'll use it for my morning routine. Don't worry, it won't damage the station. It uses magnetic locks. He demonstrated by gripping the bar and pulling himself up so his chin went above it. Then he did it again, and again. He did 20 repetitions before dropping down, barely breathing hard. Velinara watched in silence, her mind trying to process what she was seeing. That motion required significant upper body strength. She could not do even one pull-up. Most species couldn't. "Everything okay?" Tae-min asked, noticing her stare. "Yes," Velinara said quickly. "Just interested in human customs. We all learn by watching, yes?" "Absolutely," Tae-min said with a friendly smile. "Feel free to ask me anything about human stuff. And thanks for being patient with all my equipment. I know I probably brought more than you expected." "It is no problem," Velinara said. "We are roommates now. We will learn about each other." But as she returned to her alcove, Velinara felt a strange unease growing inside her. Something about Tae-min's normal belongings didn't feel normal at all. 3 days passed, and Velinara began to relax around Tae-min. He was a considerate roommate who kept his space clean and always asked before using shared areas. He made pleasant conversation during meals and seemed genuinely interested in learning about culinary culture. Still, small things continued to surprise her, like the way he came back from his shifts in the engineering bay looking tired but never exhausted, or how he casually carried equipment that required 2 or 3 other workers to move, or his habit of doing that morning exercise routine that left him energized rather than depleted. On the 4th day, Tae-min had a double shift. He left early in the morning with a wave and a cheerful goodbye. Velinara settled into her research work, analyzing data from deep space probes. The hours passed quietly in their quarters. Around midday, Velinara stood to stretch and accidentally bumped one of Tae-min's storage containers with her hip. The container tipped and fell over with a crash. The magnetic seal broke open, and contents spilled across the floor. Velinara gasped and immediately knelt to clean up the mess. She felt terrible about going through his things, even by accident. But as she started gathering items, her hands froze. Metal weights rolled across the floor. They were compact and dense, clearly designed for human use. Velinara picked up the smallest one. It had writing on it that said 5 kilograms. She needed both hands to lift it properly. 5 kilograms for the smallest weight? She looked at the others. 10 kilograms, 20 kilograms, 50 kilograms. Her mind struggled with the numbers. The 50-kilogram weight sat on the floor like a small boulder. She tried to lift it with both hands and couldn't budge it even slightly. Tae-min had called these his light workout weights. Velinara felt her breathing quicken. She looked at the other items scattered around. Resistance bands that felt like they could support the weight of a cargo loader. A grip strengthener that she couldn't compress, even using all her strength. Thick rope that he apparently used for climbing exercises. Then she saw the survival kit. It was a standard emergency container, but when she opened it, the contents made her skin go cold. Emergency rations that contained over 3,000 calories per package. Medical supplies with dosage instructions that seemed impossibly high. Pain medication with warnings about proper amounts that would hospitalize most species. She knew she picked up his first aid kit. Inside were bandages, stitching supplies, antiseptic, and various medications. There was also a small device she recognized as a bone-setting tool. Why would someone carry equipment for setting their own broken bones? Velinara sat back on her heels, surrounded by Tae-min's scattered belongings. Her analytical mind, trained in scientific research, began processing the information differently. This wasn't just unusual equipment. This was equipment designed for a species that operated under entirely different physical parameters than anyone she'd ever met. She needed answers. Velinara carefully gathered everything and placed it back. In the container, but not before taking detailed scans with her personal datapad. Then she sent a message to her friend Kix, a Threxian scientist who worked in the station's research laboratory. Within an hour, Kix arrived at her quarters. He was shorter than Velinara, with gray-scaled skin and 4 arms that he used expressively when he talked. His large eyes examined the items she'd laid out for him. "You asked me to come immediately," Kix said. "What is so urgent?" "I need you to analyze these," Velinara said, gesturing to some of Taemin's lighter equipment that she'd borrowed. "Tell me what species they're designed for." Kix pulled out his professional scanner and began examining the items. He checked the weights first, running his device over them multiple times. Then he examined the emergency rations. His expression grew more confused with each scan. "These readings cannot be correct," Kix muttered. "The scanner must be malfunctioning. What does it say?" Velinara asked, though she already suspected the answer. "These weights are configured for someone with approximately 5 to 7 times the strength of an average Kalari," Kix said slowly. "And these are marked as light training weights. The emergency rations contain caloric density that would sustain me for nearly 10 days, but the packaging suggests they're meant for short-term use." He picked up the medical supplies and scanned those too. "The medication dosages would be lethal to us. The bone-setting tool suggests the user expects to potentially repair their own fractures in emergency situations. This is equipment for a species designed to survive extreme trauma." Velinara felt. Her suspicions confirmed, but hearing it from Kix made it real. "These belong to my roommate. He's human." "Human?" Kix's eyes widened. "But humans are relatively new to the galactic community. They've presented themselves as cooperative and peaceful. They work in standard positions throughout the station. Nothing about them suggested they were physically exceptional." "I thought the same thing," Velinara said. "But I've been watching Taemin for days now. He moves cargo that should require mechanical assistance. He exercises for hours beyond his work shifts. He considers all of this equipment normal and necessary for basic life." Kix set down his scanner. "Has he shown any aggressive behavior?" "None at all," Velinara said firmly. "He's kind, considerate, and friendly." "But Kix, what if humans don't? Realize they're different? What if they think everyone is like them?" The two friends looked at each other in silence. The implications were staggering. Humans had been integrating into galactic society for several years now. They worked on stations, served on mixed-species crews, and participated in diplomatic exchanges. But if they possessed physical capabilities, far beyond other species, and didn't realize it, what did that mean? "We should observe more carefully," Kix said. "Don't say anything to your roommate yet. Let me talk to some colleagues quietly. We need to understand the full scope of this before we draw conclusions." "Agreed," Velinara said. But Kix, unworried, "If humans are this much stronger and tougher than us, why haven't we noticed before?" "Perhaps we have," Kix said thoughtfully. "Perhaps we attributed their survival rates and accidents to luck. Perhaps we thought their work efficiency was just good training. Perhaps we've been seeing the evidence all along, but interpreting it incorrectly." After Kix left, Velinara carefully returned all of Taemin's equipment to the container and secured it properly. She spent the rest of the day trying to work on her research, but her mind kept wandering. She thought about news reports she'd read over the years. Human explorers surviving ship crashes that killed everyone else. Human workers recovering from injuries that would have been permanently disabling for other species. Human colonists establishing settlements on worlds classified as too hostile for habitation. At the time, these stories seemed like exceptional cases. Lucky survivors, brave pioneers. But what if they weren't exceptions? What if they were normal? For humans? When Taemin returned late that evening, he looked tired but not exhausted. His double shift would have hospitalized Velinara from exhaustion. He smiled when he saw her. "Hey," he said. "Sorry I'm back so late. The shift ran long. Did you have a good day? Yes, very productive, Velinara lied. How was your work? Busy, Taemin said, rolling his shoulders. We had to move some heavy equipment around. My back's a little sore. I think I'll do some stretches before bed. He moved to his alcove and began his evening routine. Velinara watched from her research station, seeing everything with new eyes. The casual way he moved weights that she couldn't lift. The stretches that bent his body in ways that would injure her. The recovery from physical labor that should have left him bedridden. Tae-min was strong, incredibly strong, and he had no idea how unusual that was. The question that kept Velinara awake that night wasn't about Taemin's strength. It was about what that strength meant. What else could humans do that they thought was normal? And perhaps most importantly, what would happen when the rest of the galaxy discovered the truth? Over the next week, Velinara became an accidental spy in her own quarters. She watched everything Taemin did with scientific attention, taking mental notes and occasionally recording data. The more she observed, the more concerned she became. Taemin's morning routine started at 6 station time. He woke up without an alarm, immediately alert. He drank a full liter of water, then began his exercises. 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, 20 pull-ups on his bar, a 5-kilometer run on the station's track. All of this before breakfast, and he considered it light maintenance. Velinara tried, doing 5 push-ups one morning and nearly collapsed from the effort. Her species wasn't built for that kind of exertion. Breakfast was another revelation. Taemin consumed more calories in one meal than Velinara ate in an entire day. He didn't eat like someone starving. He ate like someone fueling a machine that required constant energy input. Want some? Taemin offered one morning, gesturing to his plate piled with protein and carbohydrates. No, thank you, Velinara said. I've already eaten. She'd had her small portion of nutrient paste. Looking at his loaded plate made her realize that human bodies were furnaces that burned through resources at an incredible rate. Kix contacted her several times throughout the week with updates. He'd been quietly observing other humans on the station and consulting with colleagues in the xenobiology department. The findings were consistent and troubling. Humans working in cargo management routinely lifted containers that required mechanical assistance for other species. Human medical staff showed confused concern when other species needed weeks to recover from injuries that humans healed from in days. Human security officers completed physical assessments that were designed to be challenging but not impossible, then asked if there were harder tests available. They don't understand they're different, Kix told Velinara during one of their private conversations. Every human we've observed seems to think their capabilities are normal. They're polite about others needing help, but they genuinely believe everyone could do what they do with proper training. What do we do with this information? Velinara asked. I've informed the station council, Kix said. They're investigating quietly. But Velinara, I think you need to talk to your roommate. We need to understand the human perspective. Velinara knew he was right, but she was nervous. How do you tell someone they're far stronger than they realize? How do you explain that their normal is everyone else's extreme? The opportunity came unexpectedly. It was evening, and Taemin was preparing for his workout. Velinara watched him load weights onto a bar, adding plates until the total was over 100 kilograms. He positioned himself under it, lifted it onto his shoulders, and began squatting up and down with controlled movements. Velinara's courage broke. Taemin, stop. He carefully set the weight down and looked at her with concern. Is everything okay? Am I making too much noise? No, Velinara said, standing up from her research station. Her hands were shaking slightly. I need to talk to you about something important. Can you sit down? Taemin looked confused, but nodded. He grabbed a towel and wiped his face, then sat on the common area couch. Valinara sat across from him, gathering her thoughts. "I've been observing you," she began carefully. "Not in a bad way, just noticing things. And I've consulted with friends who are scientists." "Okay," Taemin said slowly. "Is something wrong?" "That weight you were just lifting," Valinara said, pointing at the barbell. "How heavy is it?" 120 kilograms, Taemin said. "Why? I cannot move it," Valinara said. "Not even slightly. I tried to lift one of your 50-kilogram dumbbells and couldn't. Kix, my friend who is stronger than me, could barely lift it with all 4 of his arms." Taemin's expression shifted to surprise. "Oh, I didn't realize. I thought maybe you just hadn't trained for it." "No amount of training would let me lift what you lift," Valinara said. "That's what I need to talk to you about. Your equipment, your exercise, your food consumption, your recovery time from work. All of it suggests that humans are physically very different from other species." She pulled out her datapad and showed him the scans Kix had taken. "Your emergency rations contain enough calories to feed me for 10 days. Your pain medication would be lethal to most species in the doses you take. Your workout equipment is designed for strength levels 5 to 7 times higher than average galactic standards." Taemin stared at the datapad, his face showing confusion and growing realization. "But this is just normal human stuff. Everyone back on Earth has equipment like this." "Everyone on Earth is human," Valinara said gently. "Humans may be much stronger and tougher than you realize." Taemin sat back, processing this information. "But I'm not especially strong. I'm just average. There are humans way stronger than me. Athletes, soldiers, construction workers. Some humans can lift twice what I can." Valinara felt a chill run through her. Twice what Taemin could lift. That was beyond her ability to even imagine. "Show me your normal strength," Valinara said. "Pick up something you consider medium weight." Taemin looked around and walked over to the common area table. It was a solid metal surface designed to hold equipment and supplies. He gripped the edge and lifted it with one hand, holding it at shoulder height. "This is maybe 40 kilograms? Feels pretty easy." Valinara's golden eyes were wide. She could barely lift 10 kilograms overhead with both arms. "What about running?" she asked. "How far can you run?" "I usually do 5 kilometers in the morning," Taemin said. "But I could probably run 20 or 30 kilometers if I needed to. Maybe more if I paced myself. Humans used to hunt by chasing animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We're built for endurance. 20 or 30 kilometers?" Valinara repeated. She could walk maybe 3 kilometers before needing to rest. Taemin set the table down and sat again. His expression was troubled now. "I always thought other species just had different priorities. I thought if Quilnari or Threxians trained like humans, they could do the same things." "We cannot," Valinara said firmly. "Our bodies are not built the same way. If I tried to exercise like you, I would damage myself permanently. If I took your medication, it would kill me. If I ate your rations, the caloric load would make me sick." She leaned forward. "Taemin, humans are extremely strong and resilient compared to most species in the galaxy. You can survive injuries we cannot. You can work longer without rest. You need more food and water. You can perform physical tasks that seem impossible to us. And from what you're telling me, you're just an average human." Taemin was quiet for a long moment. "I never thought about it that way. On Earth, I'm just a regular guy. Nothing special. Here, you are remarkable," Valinara said. "And I think the galaxy needs to understand this about humans. Not because you're dangerous, but because there have been misunderstandings. We need to know the truth." "What kind of misunderstandings?" Tae-min asked. Velinara explained about the observations Kix had made. Humans working jobs that should be exhausting them. Humans recovering from accidents that should have killed them. Humans establishing colonies on worlds considered too harsh for settlement. We thought these were exceptional cases, Velinara said. Lucky survivors, or especially trained individuals. But they're not exceptions, are they? They're just normal humans doing normal human things. Tae-min shook his head slowly. I guess not. Back home, surviving a car crash, or recovering from a broken bone, or working a physical job, that's all normal. We just heal and keep going. Most species cannot just heal and keep going, Velinara said. For us, major injuries are career-ending or life-threatening. Tae-min looked at his hands, as if seeing them for the first time. So what happens now? Are people going to be scared of humans? Some might be, Velinara admitted. But I'm not scared of you. You're one of the kindest people I've met. Your strength doesn't make you dangerous. It just makes you different. I don't want people to treat me differently, Tae-min said quietly. They already should have been, Velinara said. Work assignments should account for human capabilities. Safety equipment should be rated for human durability. Medical care should be calibrated for human physiology. We've been treating humans like everyone else, and that was a mistake. Not because you're better or worse, but because you're different. Tae-min looked at her and slowly nodded. I think I understand. But this is going to be strange to explain to other humans. We're so used to being normal. You are normal, Velinara said with a small smile. Normal for humans. That's what the galaxy needs to understand. News spread through Harmony Station faster than Velinara expected. Within 3 days of her conversation with Tae-min, the station council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from the major galactic powers attended, along with scientists, medical officers, and several confused human residents. Velinara was asked to present her findings. She stood before the assembled council members and explained her observations, showing the data Kix had collected, the scans of human equipment, the analysis of human physical capabilities, the comparison charts showing how humans measured against galactic norms. The reaction was mixed. Some council members listened with scientific curiosity. Others showed clear concern. A few looked frightened. These humans have been living among us for years, said Council Member Thorax, a Krillian whose species prided themselves on military strength. If they are as physically powerful as you suggest, they could pose a security threat. They have posed no such threat, Velinara countered firmly. Humans have been model citizens. They work hard, follow regulations, and contribute positively to our communities. Their physical capabilities do not make them dangerous. Not yet, Thorax said darkly. But what if they decide to use that strength against us? From the human section of the room, a woman stood up. She was in her 50s, with gray hair and tired eyes. My name is Hei-1. I'm a physician working in the station's medical center. May I speak? The council chairman gestured for her to continue. I've been treating both humans and non-humans for 3 years, Hei-1 said. I never realized how different we were until recently. A colleague pointed out that I've been setting recovery expectations based on human healing rates, and patients were confused when I said they'd be back to normal in a week. For them, the same injury needed a month or more. She pulled up medical records on the display screen. I have records of humans surviving explosive decompression, recovering from broken bones in weeks, healing from cuts that should have required surgery. I thought these were lucky cases. I didn't realize this was normal human biology. Another human stood. He was young, maybe in his 20s, wearing a cargo handler's uniform. I'm Wu Jin. I work in the loading docks. I've been moving cargo containers by hand because the mechanical loaders were always busy. My supervisor kept praising my work ethic. I didn't know I was doing something impossible. I thought I was just being helpful. A third human rose. She wore a security officer's uniform and had the bearing of someone used to physical training. Gia, station security. We complete the same physical assessments as other species. I always thought the tests were easy because I trained hard back on Earth. Are you telling me I should have been taking harder tests? The examples continued. Humans describing normal activities that other species found extraordinary. Working double shifts without exhaustion. Carrying heavy loads. Recovering quickly from illnesses. Each story added to the picture Velanara had painted. This is a serious situation, said Council Member Vexara, a diplomatic Ureni known for level-headed analysis. But I propose we approach it rationally. Humans have demonstrated peaceful intentions. Their physical capabilities are a factor to consider in job assignments and safety protocols, not a reason for fear. Easy for you to say, Thorax grumbled. Your species specializes in negotiation, not defense. If humans decided to take over this station, what would stop them? Tae Min, who had been sitting quietly, suddenly stood. Permission to speak? The chairman nodded. I understand your concern, Tae Min said, his voice steady. You're worried about what humans could do. But you should think about what we have done. We've been part of the galactic community for years. We've worked beside you. We've helped build stations and explore space. We've saved lives in emergencies. We've done all of this without knowing we were physically different. He paused, looking around the room. If humans wanted to dominate or conquer, we would have done it already. We didn't, because that's not who we are. We're not warriors or conquerors. We're just people trying to make our way in the galaxy, same as everyone else. The room was silent for a moment. Then Velanara spoke up. Tae Min is my roommate. I've lived with him. I've watched him. He uses his strength to help others. He carries things for people who struggle. He works extra hours when the team is short-staffed. He exercises to stay healthy, not to prepare for combat. His strength is just part of who he is, like my ability to analyze data or Kix's talent for chemistry. It doesn't define his intentions. Kix stood from his seat. I've studied the data extensively. Humans evolved on a world with harsh conditions. They developed endurance and resilience to survive. This isn't a military adaptation. It's an environmental one. Earth had dangerous predators, long distances between resources, variable climates, and diseases. Humans became tough because they had to be. Hey, one added more context. Human evolution favored persistence over speed. We can't run as fast as many predators, but we can outlast them. We can't lift as much as some large animals, but we can keep working when they've exhausted themselves. Our bodies are designed for long-term survival in difficult conditions. That's why we heal faster, need more calories, and can endure physical stress. Council Member Vexara nodded thoughtfully. So humans are survivors, not predators. Exactly, Hay once said. We're the species that kept going when stopping meant death. That mindset is built into our psychology, as well as our bodies. We don't give up easily. We adapt. We find solutions. These traits made us successful on Earth, and they make us good additions to the galactic community. Thorax still looked unconvinced. But what about future humans? What if the next generation decides to use their advantages aggressively? What if they do? Gia said bluntly. With respect, Council Member, any species could turn hostile. The question shouldn't be whether humans are capable of harm. The question should be whether we've given you reason to trust us. Have we? The room fell into thoughtful silence. Finally, the chairman spoke. I believe we need a new framework for understanding humans. Not one based on fear, but one based on accurate information. We need to update our safety protocols, medical procedures, and work assignments to account for human capabilities. We also need to address the human population, Bexara added. Many humans seem unaware of how different they are. They should understand galactic norms so they can navigate society more easily. And we need to change how we think about diversity, Valinara said. The galaxy has always celebrated different species, bringing different talents. Humans bring physical resilience and endurance. That should be valued, not feared. The council discussed options for hours. They formed committees to review protocols. They assigned scientists to study human physiology more carefully. They planned educational programs for both humans and non-humans. But the most important decision was philosophical. The council agreed that human physical capabilities did not make them a threat category. Instead, humans would be recognized as a species with unique characteristics, just like every other species in the galaxy. When the meeting finally adjourned, Tae-Min found Valinara in the corridor outside. "Thank you for speaking up for humans," he said. "I know this situation is strange." "Thank you for being patient with us," Valinara replied. "We should have noticed sooner. We should have asked questions instead of making assumptions." "I think everyone was making assumptions," Tae-Min said with a slight smile. "Humans assumed everyone was like us. Everyone else assumed humans were like them. Turns out we were both wrong." They walked back toward their quarters together. Other station residents watched them with open curiosity now. Some looked nervous. Others looked fascinated. A few smiled and waved. "Things are going to be different now," Valinara observed. "Yeah," Tae-Min agreed. "But maybe different is okay. Maybe it's even good." When they reached their quarters, Tae-Min paused at the door. "I'm still going to work out every morning. And I'm still going to help people carry things. And I'm still going to work hard. Because that's what feels right to me." "I know," Valinara said. "And I'm still going to work on my research and drink too much coffee and stay up too late reading. Because that's what feels right to me. We're different species, but we can still be friends." "Good friends," Tae-Min said warmly. Got inside their quarters. Everything looked the same as it had before. The workout equipment, the food supplies, the emergency kits. But the meaning had changed. These weren't symbols of hidden warrior culture. They were simply the tools a human needed to live a normal life. And perhaps that was the most important revelation of all. Humans weren't trying to be extraordinary. They were just trying to be themselves. The fact that their normal happened to be remarkable by galactic standards was simply an accident of evolution. What mattered was what they chose to do with their capabilities. And so far, humans had chosen cooperation, hard work, and friendship. That said more about humanity than any physical measurement ever could. 6 months after the council meeting, Harmony Station looked different. Not in obvious ways, but in the small details that showed how understanding had grown. The station's recreation center now had a special section labeled Human Intensity Activities. Inside, humans could exercise at their natural level without worrying about shocking observers. Tae-Min went there 3 times a week, and he'd made friends with other humans who finally felt free to work out properly. The first time, Valinara visited him there. She stood in the observation gallery and watched in amazement. Humans running on tracks at speeds she'd need a vehicle to match. Humans lifting weights that cargo drones handled. Humans climbing walls that looked impossibly steep. And all of them treating it as normal recreation. "It's still strange to watch," Valinara admitted to Kix, who stood beside her. "Strange, but wonderful," Kix said. "Look how happy they are." They were holding back before, trying to fit in. Now they can be themselves. In the medical center, Hei-1 had become the head of a new department focused on human-specific care. She trained other doctors on human physiology, explaining the differences that mattered for treatment. Humans heal faster, but they also hide pain better, she explained to a class of medical students. If a human says they're fine, check anyway. Our culture values toughness, so we underreport injuries. Also, our medication dosages are much higher. What heals us would harm most species, so always double-check prescriptions. The students took careful notes. One culinary student raised her hand. Doctor, is it true humans can survive being set on fire? Temporarily and not comfortably, A1 said with a slight smile. Humans have high pain tolerance and good healing, but we're not invincible. We just have wider margins for survival than most species. Think of us as durable, not indestructible. In the cargo bays, work assignments had changed. Wu Jin now led a specialized human team that handled heavy lifting and difficult physical tasks. They were paid better for it. And other species didn't have to risk injury doing work that was dangerous for them, but manageable for humans. It's weird being valued for my strength, Wu Jin told Tae Min during a break. Back on Earth, I was just another worker. Here, I'm like a specialist. We all are, Tae Min said. That's what Velinara keeps telling me. Every species has things they're good at. Humans happen to be good at the physical stuff. And the not giving up stuff, Wu Jin added. My supervisor said humans are her favorite for long-term projects because we just keep working until it's done. She called it determination. I call it stubbornness. They both laughed. It felt good to joke about their nature instead of hiding it. Security had changed too. Jia was now training mixed species teams on how to work together effectively. She taught non-humans how to use technology to compensate for physical differences. And she taught humans how to be aware of their strength advantage. Never grab a Quilnari roughly. She instructed a group of human security recruits. What feels like a firm grip to us can bruise them. Always ask before lifting anything for someone. Some species find it insulting to have help offered for tasks they can manage. Be strong, but be thoughtful. The recruits nodded seriously. They were the first generation of humans, growing up with full knowledge of how different they were. They would do better than their predecessors, who'd navigated the galaxy without. Understanding. The biggest change was cultural. Humans were no longer a mystery species that people whispered about. They were understood, valued, and integrated properly into galactic society. A human-owned restaurant opened on the station, serving Earth food with proper warning labels. High-calorie content. Not recommended for Quilnari or uranium metabolism. Threxians proceed with caution. Curious aliens came to try human food in small portions. Amazed by the intense flavors and density, human athletes began competing in galactic sports, but in separate categories. It wasn't discrimination, it was acknowledgement. Just as sports on Earth had weight classes and gender divisions, galactic sports now had species categories. Humans dominated endurance events, but struggled in competitions that required specialized abilities like flight or underwater breathing. A human named Dayun became a station ambassador, specializing in human-alien relations. She gave presentations explaining Earth's history and why humans evolved the way they did. Earth was not kind to us, she told one audience. We had to outrun predators, outlast droughts, survive diseases, and travel vast distances to find food. We developed big brains to solve problems and strong bodies to survive while we solve them. That's why we are how we are. We're not warriors. We're survivors who learn to thrive. The audience listened with new understanding. Humans weren't aggressive conquerors. They were refugees from a difficult world who'd learned to succeed through persistence and adaptation. One evening, Velinara returned to her quarters to find Tae Min installing something new. It was a climbing wall, but scaled for both human and non-human use. The bottom half had grips that Velinara could manage. The top half was for Tae Min's more intense climbing. I thought we could use it together, Taemin explained. You climb your section, I climb mine. Different challenges, but shared activity. Velinara tried the lower grips and found them manageable. She made it halfway up before her arms tired. Taemin climbed easily to the top, then came back down to her level. You're getting stronger, he encouraged. You made it farther than last week. I will never be human strong, Velinara said, slightly out of breath. You don't need to be, Taemin said. You just need to be Velinara strong. That's enough. They sat together in the common area afterward, Velinara drinking water and Taemin drinking one of his high-calorie supplement shakes. Outside the window, the station bustled with activity. Humans and aliens working side by side, each contributing their unique abilities. Do you ever miss Earth? Velinara asked. Sometimes, Taemin admitted. I miss the gravity. Station gravity is lighter, which is nice for everyone else, but makes it harder for me to maintain muscle. I miss the variety of terrain, and I miss foods that other humans take for granted. But you like it here, Velinara said. It wasn't a question. I love it here, Taemin confirmed. I get to be part of something bigger. I get to meet people from across the galaxy. I get to help build a future where different species work together. That's worth some homesickness. The galaxy is better with humans in it, Velinara said quietly. The galaxy is better with everyone in it, Taemin replied. Quelnari bringing scientific knowledge. Threxians bringing technical skill. Humans bringing physical resilience. Ureni bringing diplomatic wisdom. Every species adds something important. Velinara looked at her friend and roommate. 6 months ago, she'd been terrified by his equipment. Now she understood that equipment represented who humans were. Adapted survivors who prepared for challenges and kept going despite difficulties. I wrote a paper about human integration, Velinara said. Would you like to read it before I submit it? Sure, Taemin said. What's it about? It's about how we almost missed understanding humans because we looked at your differences as threats instead of traits, Velinara explained. It argues that true diversity means accepting that different species will have vastly different capabilities. And that's not just okay. It's valuable. I'd be honored to read it, Taemin said later that night. Velinara recorded a personal log entry, something she'd been doing since Taemin moved in. Final observation, she spoke into her recorder. I thought I understood humans when Taemin arrived with his equipment. I was wrong. I didn't understand anything. Humans are not the warriors or predators I feared. They are not the gentle weaklings they pretended to be for our comfort. They are survivors who became explorers. They are strong people who chose to use their strength to help rather than dominate. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Taemin showed me that physical power means nothing without good character. He could have intimidated me. He could have taken advantage. Instead, he was kind, patient, and respectful. He taught me that humanity's greatest strength isn't their muscles or endurance. It's their choice to reach out to the stars with friendship instead of fists. It's their determination to build bridges instead of walls. It's their refusal to give up on cooperation, even when it would be easier to go alone. Velinara looked out the window at the stars. The galaxy didn't know what it was getting when humans joined us. We thought we were accepting a minor species, unremarkable and ordinary. We were wrong. Humans are extraordinary, not because they're stronger or tougher, but because they're kind, despite having every reason and ability to be otherwise. That's the hidden truth I discovered. That's what the galaxy needs to understand. Humans are remarkable not for what they can do, but for what they choose to do. She ended the recording and went to sleep, comfortable in her quarters with her human roommate. Outside, Harmony Station continued its eternal rotation, home to thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds. And somewhere among them, humans worked and laughed and lived, no longer hiding who they were, finally understood for what they'd always been. Just people, trying their best, contributing what they could, building a better future, one friendship at a time. And in the end, that was more than enough.